What's up, ABG fam? Huge week for this video. This is the only time we're going to say it. Maybe I'll say it again. Like, love, laugh, hate, cry, comment, be entered in for a free t-shirt. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Answers with Guests, Week 10, halftime adjustments. Great week, great calls. I think Week 1, leading up to this point, was one of our best weeks of the season, this crazy season. This week, we were on point with a lot of things. We are Fantasy Football's inside scoop from outside the box. If you didn't catch the intro, make sure you rewind when we're all finished here. Like and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Patreon. We promise we will get those other ones up and running more. So we're focusing on YouTube this year, TikTok probably next year when hopefully Rob and I both have more time. Remember to use the hashtags anytime you comment or post. Hashtag Answers by Guests, hashtag ABGFF. And one more time, like and follow us on those providers. Listen, we got a lot to go through. We'll start with this. Swift, or going forward, but who knows? 16% of snaps, not good. Jamal Williams is coming through. If you've held on to him, you know what's going to happen. You're going to end up benching Swift. He's going to go off. You're going to put him back in the lineup, and he's going to get hurt again. So it's a situation. Trade deadline's coming up. He's somebody I would probably be looking to move if I could. Lazard continues to be good for fantasy when he's on the field. A-Rod had those 3 picks in the end zone. The Packers are done. Keep track of Jones this week. They're saying he's going to play, but Antonio Gibson was a disappointment. The game was weird. Not worried about him, though. They need to use him in the check down. That's when they had success, the 3-game win streak that they went on. It's where they had success last year using McKissick in the same exact way. Bengals dominated as forecasted, and Terrace Marshall is a thing finally. Chuba coming back this week. Foreman owners, we sort of forecasted. We weren't expecting, anything like it was 2 weeks ago. Thought he would be better than he was, but the whole team fell apart. The Bengals just completely dominated. Baker looked good, but it's going to be P.J. Walker on Thursday. Jets defense is for real. We kind of called this based on the Green Bay game. We said, couple of things went Green Bay's way. They could have beaten the Bills. The Bills were due for a loss, it seems. J-Rod arrived, and Garrett Wilson's back. Colts, we're going to discuss them later. Somebody asked a specific question about the Colts. A lot to unpack there. Raiders blow another one. We said one of these two teams, either the Raiders were going to blow or the Jags were going to blow it. The Raiders were the ones that blew it. ETN is another game, just like I said he would. Said he would start getting 100, 120-yard games, 2 touchdowns. He's done it 3 weeks in a row. He's RB1. Fields, I called this eruption over a month ago. I said it was starting to trend in that direction. I said as soon as they start letting him run with the ball, they started to do it over the past couple of weeks, and this one was just an eruption. Claypool elevated. I spelled elevated wrong. The team more than himself as forecasted, but that's just for now. If you're holding on to Claypool, keep holding on to him because he will get more targets. And Jeff Wilson was like a glove, like we thought. It's the same exact system that he was in San Francisco, the same exact coach, basically, that he played for in San Francisco, came right in. I see him supplanting Mostert. Mostert owners are going to feel their burn there. Palmer and Carter was not a good call because it was obvious. It was obvious those two were going to do good, and Cordell Patterson's back. Geno keeps rolling, and Rondale had 2 good weeks in a row. This one's big. When Kupp slid, I said, that's a mistake. You have to get at least 1 first down to salt this game away. He would have had a first down. When he slid, I said they're going to get stopped the next down. Bucks are going to get it. They're going to score a touchdown, win this game, and the Bucks will be back. You know how I feel about the Bucks and how much I was I'm not a Brady hater, but how much I was kind of loving that they weren't doing well. I got a feeling they're going to go on a roll here. I think this was Green Bay couldn't get it done against Detroit, so they're done. The Bucks got it done against the Rams. I think the Bucks are going to be back. I think that they're going to start reeling off wins. I think that we're going to start seeing some returns from Fournette. Rachaad White was in at the end of the game. Reports have been coming out about him getting pissed off about it, and White walked over to him and was like, dude, we need you. Like, keep your head up. Like, we can't do anything without you. So there's some reports that they're going to completely go to Rachaad White. So if he's on the waiver wire, you go out and you pick up a claim for him if you want, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to stay, right around where they're at, which is close to 50-50, which is kind of, impressive for White's part. But I'm telling you, this is going to completely flip the Bucs season. I think that they're going to win the South. I mean, it's not a hard division to win, but I think they're going to go on a roll here. Cup with that slide was the stupidest thing he could have done. If it was first down and he slid to make it second down, that's one thing. It was second to go to third, and they needed one first down. He could have had it. He blew it. Chiggy. He got Chiggy with it. First play of the game. Huge reception. I was like, all right, here we go with Chiggy. They only have 5 completions the whole game. McKinnon didn't do much. I said I had a feeling, but I had a feeling that my feeling was wrong. I felt like maybe I ate something too spicy. That committee's a problem for fantasy. We've been saying that 3 running backs is a problem. One of them goes down. McKinnon goes down. CEH is going to get a bump. Pacheco's going to get a bump. Either one of those two goes down, vice versa. Drake is a workhorse, the real deal. There's going to be a question later on. Somebody asked a question about J.K. Dobbins. Proche was a leading receiver somehow. He had 2 receptions. Down game for Taysom. Don't overreact. Got in the car this morning, rode to work, and was listening to this guy on the radio, and he basically said that he fell asleep watching the game. Guess what? So did I. Third quarter, fell asleep, woke up at like 2 a.m. It was a real boring game as far as I could see. Questions from the group. Let's get into these. So, Darren, as I said, he said, does J.K. Dobbins have fantasy relevance once he returns? I don't think so. I've been against the Baltimore running game all season long. You look at the game Gus Edwards had, that was a banger. It was because it was just him. You look at the 2 games that Drake's had that have been bangers, it's because it was just him. And Dobbins never looked right. When he was in the committee, couldn't even get through full games. If he was the only running back, yes, he'd have fantasy relevance. But I'm telling you, Gus Edwards comes back. I'm saying this now. I will say it again. We're going to do a big show this week because there's a Germany game early on Sunday. So it's going to be a big show Saturday night, more than likely, rather than Rob and I take Friday night to record them and Saturday night to do the shows. We'll just do everything on Saturday night. So if you don't like the big shows, I'm sorry. If you do like them, you're welcome. But so many people had Drake maybe on the bench, maybe not, because we knew Gus was out. But if you had him on the bench, you're like, oh, he had a big game. I got to put him in my starting lineup. Well, if Gus Edwards plays, you're not going to like it. You're not going to like him. I mean, they're on a bye, but the week after, week 11. So just keep that in mind, because then even if Dobbins comes back, it's a headache. Baltimore, we want nothing to do with it. Want nothing to do with Miami, but I think Miami's cleared up some. I think it's going to be Jeff Wilson show, and most are subbing him out. We'll see. Matt, he needs a QB with Burrow on bye. He's got Trevor Lawrence, Jimmy G, Carr, Russ, Heineke, Pickett. These are the guys I highlighted. He posted his entire waiver wire. These are the guys I highlighted. So, Matt, hopefully you're watching. I did it at everyone. If you're somebody that doesn't like the Facebook at everyone, I'm sorry, but I figured I'm going to go 30 minutes early. Might as well let everybody know. You want to see the show. You want to get your questions answered. You want to see the answers. I'm going to at everybody. Sorry. So, Trevor Lawrence against KC. It's a volume game. KC defense has been playing a little bit better. They didn't have to play too much defense against Tennessee, just stopping the run. So Trevor Lawrence is going to have to throw. Jimmy G, I really like him going against the Chargers. Their defense is a little bit in shambles still. And, Debo should be back, I think. So they'll be at full strength. Carr going against the Colts. They're a mess. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but the defense is a mess, and they got to get a win, and he's got weapons. Russ, the only way you can beat Tennessee is throw. Ask Patrick Mahomes. What do you throw, 70 balls? So they're not going to be able to run against Tennessee, not with the running backs they have, so he's going to have to throw. Heineke against Philly. I think it's more of a catch-up thing. Plus, it's a division game. Plus, I believe it's a night game, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Monday night, so it's a little Monday night magic. And Pickett is one that I really like this week. I think with the bye week, getting him a little more comfortable in the offense, the bye, just get a little acclimated. And before somebody even asked me questions about defenses, I'll tell a quick little story. I was texting Rob last night. Um, 2 nights ago, Sunday night, I started prepping, and I do this quite often, almost every week. But I started prepping for week 10, Sunday night of week 9, looking at the waiver wire, seeing who I could pick up. And I actually have had my eyes for about 3 weeks on the Pittsburgh defense. If you are in need of a defense this week, you say, "What the hell are you talking about, guys? Pittsburgh defense has been terrible." Yeah, because they haven't had TJ Watt. And TJ Watt's coming back this week. And whether they're playing against Andy Dalton or they're playing against Jameis Winston, you're going to see some sacks. You're going to see some interceptions. They're at home. I think Pickett and the offense is going to be better. So, Matt, if you're picking somebody up with waivers, there's not too many people that are going to need quarterbacks this week. Maybe people have Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, like yourself, and Lamar Jackson. I don't think anybody needs a sub for Mac Jones or Zach Wilson because those are the 4 teams on a bye. Um, I would sort of hold my waiver priority because I honestly, all these guys, I mean, some are a little higher than others, but all of them on this list right here for me are kind of close. And I'd rather move up the waiver priority. And if worst comes to worst, I grab Pickett. I just have a feeling that they spent the bye week. I think TJ Warren's going to be more involved. Um, so they're going to try and get the running game going to help him. He's struggled. He's had the rookie struggles. They've had a super hard schedule so far. Pittsburgh has defenses they've been playing. Pickett's, he's held his own. He hasn't looked great. He hasn't even really looked good, but he's held his own. He's got 2 really solid receivers, a good tight end, and Najee Harris has been able to do nothing. But Warren, when he's been on the field, has been able to do some things. I think they give Warren a lot more playing time coming out of the bye. I know the Saints' rush defense is tough, but I think he's able to move the line just a little bit more, and that has to keep them honest with Pickett. That's going to open up some things. We'll see if Lattimore comes back this week because that can make a difference on Pickens. But I like Pickett if you want to just wait until everybody's done. But if I'm looking at this list right here and I want to go after somebody, I don't care about waiver priority, I'm probably going to take Jimmy G because Jimmy G he's got the best weapons out of this entire crew, and he's playing against the offense that should be able to at least try and put up more points. They got the number 1, if not number 2. I think he's like half a point behind Derrick Henry, running back in Eckler. So the Chargers will be able to score some points. I know that the Niners have a good defense, but Jimmy G would probably be who I'd go after here. He's a little bit on the safer side. We've seen Carr be a mess. We've seen Russ be a mess. Heineke throws his hospital balls and gets himself in trouble, and we all know the deal with T-Law. So I'm going after Jimmy G if I don't care about my waiver priority. Otherwise, I'm just waiting, and I'm just taking Pickett. Josue, who can I offer for Kittle? I put his whole lineup here. He's got Fields, Waddle, Diggs, Sanders, Walker, and Njoku, Monty, Deontay, Aaron Jones, Herbert, Tony, Garoppolo, Warren, Gus. So I'm not sure if you can get Kittle because, I would have, let's just say Njoku wasn't hurt going into the bye and had a good game against the Bengals on Monday night. I would have packaged Njoku and Tony because, as I said last week, Tony's value is never going to be higher. His value took a big hit the other night, catching 2 balls for 12 yards. His role will grow. He's a dynasty play. He's going to be great for Kansas City next year when all their wide receivers are gone, and he's their number 1. But I would have made that move. I would have been Njoku and Tony for Kittle and gone from there. Problem is, you don't want to get rid of Waddle. You don't want to get rid of Diggs unless Josh Allen's going to be out for a month, but chances are the owner of Kittle knows that as well. Sanders is somebody I could possibly move. The problem is you have Aaron Jones, who's a little hurt. Herbert had a down week. I do think Warren gets a bump, and Gus. if you think you can move Miles Sanders for George Kittle, I think that's probably your strongest move without killing your team. You can't really move a wide receiver at this point. So that's probably what I would do because I think it's, sooner or later, the Eagles are going to be a little bit back to a committee. They've also had kind of easy matchups in their 8-0 run or whatever. So it's going to get a little tougher. They got who I always call Wendell Smallwood, Kenneth Gainwell, more involved last week coming back. Boston Scott's back. I think I would try and move Sanders. He's probably got the best value and the most expendable on your team. Price check on Eckler. He is the number one running back in football, fantasy football. I mean, he's a half point behind Derrick Henry. So where's his price on him? His price is essentially Derrick Henry at this point. So if you're looking to sell him, you better get something really good. And if you're looking to buy him, you better pony up. Dawn, question of the night. I better wet my whistle. Thoughts on the Colts? I mean, I know the narrative. The narrative is that they threw the towel in, right? They're for whatever reason, I'm forgetting the term, but they're quitting. They're throwing it in. They just want a top 5, if not the best top pick, which they won't get probably. They'd really have to lose out and have other people win. But they want a quarterback, which is smart. But they should have done this years ago, and they did do this years ago. I mean, they drafted Ellinger, they drafted Jacob Eason, and never gave him a shot before that. They've been going after these old, washed-up players: Rivers, Wentz, Matt Ryan. So they've wasted 3 or 4 years, essentially doing this. I don't, whether or not they're doing that, I think that them hiring Jeff Saturday, I think it could be a really good thing. And I also think that them hiring the 30-year-old, it was the news today, a 30-year-old offensive coordinator, I think that was a great move as well for fantasy purposes. Their offense has been broken, and they need the guy that they hired in, the 30-year-old. He's like the wide receiver, pass specialist guy. What do we need from them? The running back situation, we called Deion Jackson having a bad game. Every single person asked a question about Deion Jackson. I said, don't play him. I don't like it. Because it was so easy to see. The Colts were going to stop the run and force Ellinger to beat him. And I mean, it's Bill Belichick. That's what he does against these. He's not a rookie, but he's first year starting quarterback. That's what he does. And we didn't like Deion Jackson. He got banged up, but still. The Colts need to throw the ball more, and they need to protect better. So they got an offensive lineman, one of the best in history. And I believe he was a center, right? And now they got the offensive coordinator is a pass specialist, wide receiver specialist. So I think it's a good thing. I'm not selling off my Colts. Pittman had a terrible game. Not his fault. The game before was his fault because he dropped passes. Pierce was still involved. Campbell, I'd like to see more. The tight ends are a wash anyways. But I'm looking, if I need something at this point, a wide receiver specifically, and somebody is trying to dump Colts, specifically Michael Pittman, I'm probably able to get him for pretty cheap. And I'm taking it. The defense is banged up. It's clear that they could be tanking. That's the word. It's clear that they could be tanking. But I think this Jeff Saturday move, he's going to be a player's coach. He's got no experience. He's coming into this, raw dog. And I think it's going to be a good thing for them. Frank Reich was a good coach. But I don't see Jeff Saturday going in and being okay with tanking. I think that he's going to go in and try and put forth the best effort. This 30-year-old with no real experience as the offensive coordinator is going to try and make a name for himself. Jeff Saturday said, I'm auditioning for the Colts and 31 other teams. And people laughed at it. But it would not surprise me if they went out this week and competed and showed some firepower on offense. We'll see how I feel Saturday night in the big show. But my thoughts on the Colts, they got to get Jonathan Taylor back, and they have to get him back healthy. Ellinger's got to be able to hit a wide open wide receiver. They were on the road against New England. They should have won 2 weeks ago. They blew it. This one against New England, I'm going to throw it out. We saw it coming. We called it. Let's see this week. Let's see the first game with Jeff Saturday. I'm not imagining that the players are going to be worthless. I'm going to go out and try and buy them as cheap as I can. Granted, they only got one or two that you really want to own, but you could probably pick up Pierce off the waiver wire after this week if he's not already out there. Better RB2 this week: Patterson against Carolina, Fournette against Seattle, Sanders against Washington. The Seattle defense has been tough. Sanders against Washington, I just talked a little bit about him. I'm going to keep going with Patterson. Why not? He's healthy, short week. His wheel is greased, so to speak. Let's keep it going against Carolina on Thursday night. Why not? Antonio, he's surprised to be the leader in his 3 leagues for the first time. Thanks for your help. You're welcome, Antonio. That's what we're here for. We hope to help. And anytime we make a bad call, trust me, I feel absolutely terrible about it. So for the most part, last week, we were pretty spot on. So I feel good about that, and I hope that we were able to help you and everybody else. Antonio, anyone over Goff? He's got Stafford on the waiver wire, Jimmy G, Carr, or Russ. Same exact thing I talked about before, Antonio. Stafford, he's got to get other guys involved, and when he gets other guys involved, they have to catch the ball. Arizona's not bad. I can see Higbee having a good game in this one against Arizona because Van Jefferson can't catch and Allen Robinson likes to disappear. He thinks he's Amari Cooper. And Jimmy G, as I talked about, Carr we'll see about against Indy, Russ against Tennessee. I think Jimmy G. I'd go Jimmy G. Same advice I gave earlier. Jimmy G is the play this week if you need somebody off the waiver wire for a quarterback. Third place, waiver number 2, Burrow on bye. Obviously, Geno, right? T-Law against KC, Geno against Tampa Bay, Pickett against New Orleans, Jimmy G against Chargers. I'm going to go Jimmy G. Geno's a safe pick, but I have a feeling the Bucs, I think that game is going to change them. Their defense has been good. I think this is probably the best defense that Geno has faced so far this year. I like Pickett, like I talked about. T-Law is going to be a volume play, but I'm going to go with Jimmy G. I'm sticking with him. I'm throwing all my eggs in the Jimmy G basket, Scott. And this was a little note I made to myself. Scott needs a running back because he showed me his roster. He has Jones in the flex, but I guess he could put Carter in the flex or DPJ. DPJ might be a sneaky one. We'll see what we talk about on Saturday night, but I guess you have other options out there. But what I was going to say was save your number 2 and just go after Pickett, like I told somebody before. Save your number 2, go after Pickett because nobody's going to pick him up. Or maybe even save your number 2 and maybe Jimmy G will still be available. You get the best running back available. Maybe Rachaad White's available. Maybe Jaylen Warren is available. Those 2 guys, I'd be scooping both of them if it were me. And I'd have. So go with that. And Corey said Burrow on bye. Is Brissett an option? Corey, I just went through all things. I don't know the other options, but if Jimmy G's an option for you, I'm going over after Jimmy G. Brissett's not bad because, as I just talked about with Scott, DPJ could be a sneaky one. But I just like Jimmy G this week playing against the Chargers. I think it's a great matchup with them coming off the bye and Debo and CMC and Ayuk and Kittle and Juwan Jennings will probably be back. I like Jimmy G this week quite a bit. Your questions live. I got to go all the way up to the top. Let's see what we got. Darko wants a free t-shirt. Listen, if you're going to watch the intro, you got to watch the intro. The intro tells you what to do. And if we got comments, if we got likes, if we got loves, if we got laughs, hates, cries, don't matter. You got to do that. And you got to comment. I'm going to add you to the list. If you're already on the list, you're going to be on there twice. It will double you up because I want to get to 10 people so I can random it and send a t-shirt out. Jeremy wants the same. Jeremy said this week starts the 2-week buy Mageddon in my ESPN league. We need a good RB waiver to add in case GT doesn't play. Just gave you 2. Jaylen Warren, Rachaad White. If they're out there, grab them. I don't know how deep this league is. But those are 2 guys I'd be going after right now. And there's a couple other guys, Isaiah Spiller maybe. But I'm not as big on him because Eckler is just murdering the show there. Patterson worth a trade for Elliott. If you are getting Patterson, I would do that trade. Not sure if you're watching Kalen, but if you are getting Patterson, then yes, trade away Elliott. Same ESPN league, you were offered a trade. You get Burrow and Michael Carter. You get Cousins, Harris at you. I'd rather have Burrow than Cousins, and I'd probably rather have Michael Carter, honestly, unless you need a wide receiver. But AU, I mean, there's so many mouths to feed there. He's good, but then you got to drop somebody as well. I'd probably just rather just stick with Burrow and Michael Carter. What tight end in Detroit? It's James Mitchell, but they brought up the two brothers. One's a wide receiver, one's a tight end, Zylstra, whatever it was. And he scored the one freak touchdown to open up the game. That could have very easily been James Mitchell. Listen, he's a rookie. It was his first real game with real time. But listen, they don't trade away TJ Hawkinson unless they like the guy they drafted. So I think James Mitchell is the one. Didn't do much last week, just I think one or two catches and the touchdown. Could have had two, but they threw it to Zylstra, who was open. But Mitchell was right there. But I do think that he is the tight end to own in Detroit. Saints should give the QB spot to Taysom so I can super flex and non super flex. Yeah, I was wondering, like, after that showing, because, like, I need a quarterback because I have Lamar, but I also have Taysom. I was thinking about just putting Taysom in my QB. He had such a down game last week, and we know the ebbs and flows here at ABG. And, like, imagine if they just started Taysom at quarterback. He did it last year, and he did pretty well for them, better than Trevor Siemian. I'm surprised the league doesn't have the QB tight end split. Burrow on a buy on top of waivers. Yeah, Corey, I answered that question for you, buddy. Were you not here for that? I answered that one. Let me know if you did not hear the answer. I think I just answered it, actually. I think you were the last one. I like Pickett. I'm not doing Walker at all on Thursday. He's got a chance to just be pulled. And he could get pulled for Darnold. He could get pulled for Baker. You got three quarterbacks there. You have none. Not doing it with him. Even if he has a good game, I don't care. And Brissett is fine, but I'm still not. I just am not sold on him. Can't recommend anybody I don't like going into the season. Jimmy G over Brady as a streamer. I think the Bucks have turned a corner, man. That's a tough one. Talk to me on Saturday, but I think the Bucks have turned a corner. I would put Jimmy G on the roster just in case if you got a spot because I think he has a good week. But and then that's your bye week replacement for Brady when he goes on the bye. I think what is it, week 11? Yeah, it's close, but I think the Bucks have turned a corner. I really think that game-winning drive is going to turn their season 180. We'll see this week if I'm right or wrong. Besides Lamar and Andrews when healthy, is there any waiver play to keep? Yeah, it's all a committee. It's all a committee. I mean, at this point, you might as well likely because their wide receiver situation is so ridiculous. Bateman's gone. Deshaun Jackson couldn't even make it through a whole game because he's 35 years old. I mean, that's old in football years. It's younger than me. It's old in football years. And, Prochet, leading receiver last night with 12 yards, 2 for 12, most receptions, most targets. Demarcus Robinson, my boy D-Rob, but he's not a stud by any means. He's getting up there in age as well, high 20s. But I could see them running out two tight ends because Likely has proven that he has it. So, I mean, if you could scoop him, then I don't know if you got a flex, but he's great insurance for Andrews. And if the running back has to play by themselves, then, like I said, Drake's by himself. Drake is a play. If Gus is by himself, Gus is a play. If they're both healthy and then Dobbins comes in the mix, forget about it. I got one with Lazard. Yeah, it paid off. I stuck with Lazard, too. If you were watching the Sunday shows and any of the recorded shows, I was worried about DeAndre Carter because I had big bye week and injury replacements. I was worried about Lazard. I stuck with them both, and they both paid off. And I went Now I'm in second place in my most important league, my big league, 1,400. So I'm right there and a game out of first. So I'm glad it paid off for you as well. Who's the guest player this week? You gotta watch the show. Saturday night, we give the guesstimators when we do the great game breakdowns. We're gonna do a big show this week, so it'll probably be another 2-hour banger. But the guesstimator will be discussed in there. He's not Thursday, I'll tell you that much. And I'm on a 3-game winning streak in both leagues when I started off. Yeah, because you're doing the Larry verse. We talked about this. The Larry verse is real. Fields a must start. This week, yeah, Detroit, right? I think you must start him 100%, and we'll go from there. Fields are 2 of the rest of the season. Great question, Dan. And I see somebody else in the same exact thing down here, Charlie. I think that if you have both of these guys, I think you played the matchups. I think Tua is foolproof with the 2 wide receivers he has. What you're going to get with Fields is you're going to get defenses starting to keen in a little bit on his rushing ability, especially after last week setting the NFL record. And once he can't run, they start spying him. They prep all week for a spy, and he can't run like he ran the past few weeks, and then all the way up until last week when it literally exploded in our faces. Then he's going to have to throw more. So luckily they have Chase Claypool. Tua's not looking to run. Tua has the 2 fastest wide receivers on the outside and over the middle, no matter how he wants to use them. So, I mean, if I got to flip a coin on one or the other, I'll probably go with Tua, but I'm going to play matchups, and hopefully you own them both. So that answers your question and Charlie's question. I would roster both if I could. This week, I'm probably going to lean Fields because he's playing Detroit, and they can't stop anybody except for Aaron Rodgers 3 times in the end zone. You commented the top QBs on the waiver. I didn't see it. Let me look back at it. I'll look back at it. My bad, man. But I'll look back at it. I was getting everything ready for the show, so let me see here. We'll go on to the next question. Kalen said K. Chad, what's up, man? Chad is a Patreon subscriber. I talk to him daily via PM. If you'd like to have that privilege, all you got to do is hit us up on Patreon, become a subscriber. Need a QB with Lamar on bye. Brady, like it. Danny Dimes, Russ, T-Law, Jimmy G. I'm going with Jimmy G, the list. Not keeping Dalton. Did you post them in the comments? There you go. You just posted them 17 minutes ago. So you got Pickett, Brissett, Walker, Heineke. So all guys I sort of talked about. Taysom Hill, if he would get the start, like he would be the one. I like Pickett this week going against the Saints. Let me just see. So that's your whole list. Brissett versus Miami is fine because it's a volume play. He's going to have to throw, but you can run on Miami as well. And I really think they get Kareem Hunt more involved. Check out the big show on Saturday when I get real deep into the games. But I think they're going to get Kareem Hunt more involved now. I mean, this could be the last time that they have Kareem Hunt. I feel like they were saving him to keep him healthy for a possible trade and then tried to showcase him. That's why you saw his usage go down and then spike huge that Monday night game on Halloween. They did not trade him. So now I think that they're going to use him. And I think he's going to eat into Chubb's workload, but that doesn't matter because Chubb's a monster. But that means more little dump offs to Hunt, and Hunt, another running back in there, so it could be less throws. So that's why Brissett's a little worrisome. We'll see if their 2 cornerbacks come back. Not that they can stop Tyreek Hill and Waddle, but they can slow them down or at least try a little better than some other defenses have been able to do. But their top 2 corners were out against the Bengals, and they shut down the Bengals. So Miami's a little bit of a different story. I like Brissett, but I honestly would probably, of this list, I think I would take a shot at Pickett. I'm talking to you, Corey, because I'm answering your question. Sorry, Chad. So I think I would take a shot at Pickett because I feel like coming off the bye at home, TJ Watt's back. They're going to get some short fields. He could get some cheap touchdowns. He's starting to use his legs more, which we all know. If we saw the run last year in college, he's got wheels. So Chad needs a QB. I'm going Jimmy G out of this list. Brady's close, but I'm dumping Dalton. Dalton can get pulled in any second, and he has not looked good. Now, granted, it was a primetime game. Dalton has never been good in prime time. We should have saw that coming. I overlooked that fact. My bad. But I'm dumping Dalton, and I'm going to have Jimmy G and T. Law and Russ and Brady. I'd rather have them all over Dalton. Probably Danny Dimes as well. So I don't think you can go wrong here. Drop Eno for Jaylen Warren. I think I would. Connor came back. He got through the game. Eno took a deep back seat, which I think is not the right move for Arizona. I said it in the Sunday show and on the recorded shows. I don't think that's the right move. They should have stuck with Eno and Keontae and played Connor in there sparingly, but Connor is their starter. They're paying him like the starter. So that's why they're using him as the starter. And Eno took a big back seat. And so you have Eno trending down. You have Jaylen Warren trending up. So I think that is a move I would make, Chad, because I think this week might be tough because the Saints have a tough rush defense. But I think in order to get Pickett more comfortable and get the offense moving, their defense has to get better, which it will, because they're getting TJ Watt this week. So if you miss the beginning, you need a cheap defense that nobody's looking at. Pittsburgh is the one this week at home against the Saints. Saints on a short week. They're at home to get TJ Watt back. And they need the defense, and I think they need the run game, which is why I think you're going to see a lot more Jaylen Warren, and I think you're going to see a lot less Eno, even though it's the wrong call. Thoughts on Josh Jacobs, Uday? I mean, the whole team's a mess. They went away from Josh Jacobs, and what happened? They had the lead twice now. Well, the week before was 0, but the week before that, they're losing these leads, these big leads, and they're going away from the run game, and that's why it's happening. You have the lead. I mean, this is football 101. You got the lead, you run the ball. They're going away from it. I think Josh Jacobs, the beginning of the season was a bit of an aberration. He was overproducing, and we were going nuts for him. But he was doing what we've seen him do before in the past. But I think that sort of raised our expectations. I think even what we got out of Josh Jacobs last week, I think if you would have added a touchdown into that, we would have been more than happy and said, it's a lower end Josh Jacobs game. But 12 points or so right around that area, 16. If we could get that out of Jacobs, more than fine. The team's got to turn around. They got to figure something out. Are they going to fire McDaniels the first season, halfway through the season? Probably not. But Josh Jacobs is basically the wheel that gets the offense going, and Davante Adams, and they went away from those two, and they lose the game. So they'll figure it out. I think Josh Jacobs is fine. I think the beginning of the season, if you're expecting that going forward, I mean, you might get 1 or 2 games that are very, very solid and close to that. But, I mean, his first 4, 5, 6 weeks were just ridiculous. And I think it raise the bar on what we expect from him. I think we got to lower expectations. He's a RB2. And honestly, I have him on one of my 6 teams, and I wish I had him on more. So that's my thoughts. Yes, thank you, Corey. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. You're not stuck with Lazard. Lazard's a monster. He's the wide receiver 1 for the most ridiculously out of sync offense there is, with no other real guys, and now Dubs is hurt. And every time Lazard plays the full game, he kills it. He gets 100 yards or a touchdown, and last week he got close to both. 87, I think he had 87 yards and a touchdown. Kalen, you asked that question before. I asked it again. Tight end in Detroit, James Mitchell. All right, the rookie. He's the one. Didn't do much last week, but he's the one. Will the Bears go with Khalil Herbert more if Montgomery is healthy? I mean, you would think they would have, but last week they didn't need to because, I mean, they were up, but they were trailing. They were playing catch up, and Fields was running the ball. But like I said, as much as I saw this coming with Fields, they had to do this with Fields. so that they could open up the offense. They listened. They started playing to his strengths, and they, instead of trying to put a square peg into a round hole, they just chiseled out that round hole, made it a square, and said, Fields, you have free reins to run if you have to. So that takes away from both of them. So that's kind of what happened last week. But sooner or later, this is the NFL. They're smart. They're going to figure out that we got to spy him, just like we would spy Lamar, just like we would spy Hurts. And they'll do that to him. And when that happens, if the coaches are smart, they'll start to go back and even it up a little bit instead of him having runs, give more runs back to Herbert and Montgomery, which is what they did for the first 5 games of the year, was all Herbert and Montgomery. And now, the past few weeks, we've seen more and more Fields throwing and running. They're going to find a happy medium. So will they go with Herbert more if Montgomery's healthy? I believe that it's probably about a 50-50 split. But his value is definitely better if Montgomery's hurt, without a doubt. A.J. Dillon used to break tackles side to 5 and score, but he looked awful. He looked absolutely awful. I don't get it. If he's banged up, yeah. They got Kylan Hill there too, finally healthy, rookie last year, I believe. So I mean, he'll pop in, but Dillon will get 75%. So I don't know. I don't know. The whole offense is a mess. The offensive line's a mess. A-Rod's a mess. He's a flex running back at best, and if Jones isn't there, I mean, he's a solid flex bottom line RB2. I like A.J. Dillon, but you're right, man. He used to just run people over, and I'm not seeing it this year. But I'm not dropping him. I'm picking him up if he's out there for whatever reason. I mean, running backs are gold, especially now. The weather's going to start to drop. You said Warren and White, Jeff Wilson's up. Yeah, you pick up Jeff Wilson. I talked about him in the intro. I talked about him on Sunday. I said Jeff Wilson's going to be the starter. This was his coach. This was his rushing scheme. It's perfect for him. He fits like a glove in Miami. I thought it was the best trade of the entire trade deadline was them getting Jeff Wilson, because Mostert is made of glass. He's made it this far. And Wilson's made of glass too, but he's made it this far. But Wilson and Mostert both played in the same system under the same coach last year in San Francisco and the years before that. And this is just a perfect fit for him. So I picked Wilson first, Warren second, White third. Pierce or Jacobs. I'm going Pierce. I mean, he's all they got. Uday, I'm not sure if how long you've been with us or been checking us out, but man, I called Dameon Pierce before the preseason when people were pumping up Marlon Mack. Dameon Pierce is a stud. They're using him like a stud. He's one of the only few running backs in the league that's being used as a workhorse. And you saw how good he looked against the Eagles, running against them. I mean, if you could do it against them when your passing game is, I mean, they had a couple of plays with Chris Moore, but your passing game is what it is. We'll see if Cooks comes back. If Cooks comes back and Collins comes back, they're going to be better off, and it's only going to help Dameon Pierce. I would take Brad. I have both on the same dynasty team, and I'm playing both. That's my RB1 and my RB2. So if I had to choose one, I'm going with Pierce. No problem, Kalen. Did you get your answer, though? Let me know. You may have stuck it out with Lazard. Yeah, that's good. Jeffrey, what's up, man? Clyde Edwards-Helaire protect was RB2. Talked about this when I was talking about the running backs in KC. It's a committee. It's 3 of them. It's worthless. If one of them goes down, if McKinnon goes down, these 2 guys have really good value. If one of these 2 goes down, the other one and McKinnon has really good value. But leading up to that, I mean, it's you take what you can get and you don't get upset. Because if you're in the KC running back business, like, you have to go in knowing it's 3 sharing. If I had to choose one of these 2, I'm choosing Pacheco, because I've been saying for years they don't like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He doesn't fit well into their system. He got lucky and got a lot of production early on in the season, which kept Pacheco out of the lineup. then they made the decision to start Pacheco, which means nothing. Starting means nothing. It means you play the first snap. But in their minds, I think what they were saying is we're going to start him and use him first off the line. So if I'm choosing one, I'm choosing Pacheco out of these two. But I'm praying that McKinnon gets hurt if I own both of these two. If I own McKinnon, one of them, I'm going for the other one. Yeah, we got the Dobbins yet, Darren. I've been down on Baltimore running backs. It was a situation I didn't want to touch at all this year, and it's because there was a handful of them, and they're worthless when they're all healthy. All you got to do is look. Gus Edwards' big games, why? He was the only one. Drake's big games, why? He was the only one. Dobbins comes back healthy. Who knows when that is, if it'll happen this year. But Dobbins comes back healthy, and those two are healthy, which Gus Edwards after the bye will be healthy. Now you got all three of them again. Worthless. It's worthless. Because what's going to happen week 11 is people are going to remember Drake week 9. And they're going to put Drake in their lineup, but Gus Edwards is going to be back. Maybe Dobbins is back, and it's just going to eat into their value. It's as bad as the KC situation. But maybe even a little better than the KC situation because KC likes to throw the ball a little bit more than the Ravens. Thinking of dropping Everett to get Keenan Allen back, nah, I wouldn't do that. But then you lost Dobbs. I don't trust Keenan Allen. I made this comment I think Sunday morning on the show. Somebody had to drop somebody. I was like, just drop Keenan Allen. Like he could come back this week. He could. And he could get hurt in the middle of the game again. I just feel like at his age, this injury, I'm not trusting Keenan Allen at this point. And if you don't need Everett, I get confused because Chad, once again, Patreon subscriber, we PM all the time because of it. I get confused about which team is which team. But if Everett is your backup tight end and your starting tight end is like Kelsey or Kittle or some stud that you're okay rolling with the rest of the year, okay, I guess, if you want Allen just in case. But I don't want Keenan Allen near my starting lineup at all because you put him in the game. I mean, he's not going to finish, and then what? You screwed yourself. I'd look for somebody else on the waiver wire personally. But what's the number one rule at ABG when we're talking about who should we start, who should we pick up? I'm sure somebody could type it in the comments. You have to go with your gut. I see you're saying Dolchich is your starter. Excuse me. I'm fine with it, man. Everett, you're thinking you could drop him maybe this week. Last week wasn't up to your par, but I'd rather keep Everett and Dolchich. I know you need another wide receiver. So if you're dropping Everett, I don't think Keenan Allen is the one. But go with your gut, man. Is Hines worth a pickup? I feel the same exact way I felt about Hines after they made the trade. And I think we've done 2 shows since then, at least. I think it was the stupidest trade. I think it meant nothing. I think that he went to them and basically took Moss's place because they traded Moss to the Colts. And I just feel like that's kind of worthless. I mean, they drafted James Cook. They got good draft capital in James Cook. Why would you not use James Cook more? And what did they do last week? They used James Cook more. And when they were using James Cook, he was doing amazingly. And they started putting Singletary back in. Didn't look so good. Never really went back to Cook. If you need depth and you just want a warm body, yeah, Hines worth a pickup. But I just think it's, it's like you're picking up a shinier Zach Moss, who was relatively nothing. So I like Hines. I just think it was a dumb trade for the Bills. I think it was worthless. I think that James Cook is somebody I'd rather pick up and hope that maybe he becomes the starter by year's end, because it's not going to be Hines. Hines is going to be a situational guy just like he was for the Colts. You could play him every once in a while. but most of the time you don't want him anywhere near your starting lineup. And add Lamar running, I agree. Not sure what you mean, my man. Elaborate, if you would. Oh, the Baltimore running. Yeah, Baltimore running backs. Now you got Lamar running as well. So it's just like, now I got 3 running backs and I got Lamar. And it's just like, I don't even want any part of it. Would you drop any of these guys for Deshaun Watson? I can't see any of the guys. Oh, there they are. Down here. Drake, Herbert, Allen. I probably would. I would probably drop Keenan Allen. There you go. There's my drop. I mean, Drake, I'm holding on to in case Gus gets hurt and Dobbins doesn't come back. And it's running back depth because it looks like the only other running back you have on your bench is Khalil Herbert. You got Deontay Johnson and Tyler Boyd. I dropped Keenan Allen. I said it Sunday morning. I'm done. I mean, I was never really into Keenan Allen business this season because of his age and his injury history. It's just, I can't trust it. Going into a game, that this is crunch time, and they put him back in the game, and he doesn't get through it. It's going to cost you. We've seen it too much out of Keenan Allen. He was healthy for a couple of years in a row, and now this hamstring is just, it's not cooperating with him. I'm not trusting it. I would drop him. Ebbs and flows. That's it. Don't chase last week's points. A lot of times you want to attack the players that didn't do well last week, unless there's a trend. Like Justin Fields is a trend, right? You're not chasing his points over the past 4 weeks. This was a trend. We were out in front of this trend. We said it's going to start happening. They're going to start throwing the ball just a little more. They got to start letting him running. As soon as they did that, man, now people are talking about him as like a top 5 quarterback. Like, I'm going to pump the brakes a little, but yeah. And I even said like 3-4 weeks ago, I was like, I like what I'm seeing out of Fields. I think they start to let him throw more. They start to let him run more. This is going to be a good thing. I said, I'm a Packers fan. I said, I think I'm a closet Bears fan. And then they brought in Claypool. Komet's going now. It's looking good. I said, if you are getting Cordero Patterson, then you do this trade. If you are getting Ezekiel Elliott, no, you hold on. You want Cordero Patterson. If you're getting him, you do it. If it's already been proposed to you, you take it now. So that way the trade goes through by Thursday, unless it's an instant trade, and you can play him on Thursday because you want to. Only other player even semi-droppable is CH, and that depends on your running backs. How many running backs you got on the bench? It's November, almost mid-November. Running backs are gold. I'd have to imagine that there's another semi-usable wide receiver out there. Like, I would imagine that Terrace Marshall is out there, and I'd rather have him because he's trending up over Keenan Allen at this point. So, I mean, I don't like the situation CEH is in, but like I said, McKinnon goes down, his value jumps 25 to 30%. Pacheco goes down, his value jumps 25 to 30%. Waiver wire Tigers. We talked about them. I mean, every league is different. This is why it's so tough. This is why I don't do a waiver wire thing. Alan, you know more than anybody. Well, actually, you don't, but because people have been with us longer, but you're very involved this year. So you know we're ahead of the curve. That's what we do here. The inside scoop from outside the box. So I've given names. So the ABG family, the people that watch the shows, like any name I'm going to drop, I told you 2 or 3 weeks ago. Any guy you want to pick up now, I told you 2 or 3 weeks ago. But like Rachaad White and Jaylen Warren, if they're still out there, like you got to grab them. I mean, Isaiah Spiller, I guess if he's out there, you could grab him. He's probably next in line in that thing. But every league is so different. Like you go on these paid websites, these professionals, these guys that do this for a living. And I mean, people have even made this comment to me. Like, I'm looking at these websites and they're telling me to pick up players that you told me about 3 weeks ago. I'm like, well, yeah, that's what we do here. But Terrace Marshall is somebody I talked about. If you need a wide receiver and Keenan Allen, I've been talking about him all night. DeAndre Carter has done more than fine over the past few weeks. I think his ceiling is right around where he was. He almost had a touchdown last week, got stopped at the 1, so he could have been 18-point game. But he had a 12-point game, and that's fine. And if you get return yardage, he's their return man. So he's maybe somebody to go after. I hope that helps. Thoughts on Minnesota and the offense? Can they maintain? You have Cousins. I think having Jefferson is, the business you want to be in. So I think that's a positive. I think a lot of that has to do with their matchup and when they're playing. We talked about Kirk Cousins, prime time. Kirk Cousins on the road is not as good as Kirk Cousins at home. That game last week was very weird. So if you're basing it off of this, Jeffrey, and I like how your name logo there is Minnesota purple. But last week's was such a weird game. They should have had each team, I think, 10 to 14 more points each. There were fumbles close to the end zone, interceptions, just bad play calls on third downs, and just both teams just doing stupid things. And then there was like ridiculously good offensive plays, like the one to Curtis Samuel. It's like where the dude runs into the referee, and it's like then he gets up and nobody touched him. It was a really, really weird game. They didn't use Gibson, which meant Minnesota didn't have to push the ball as hard. Minnesota kicks a field goal at the end, and then there's a penalty. So then they try and go for it. They run all the time off the clock, and then they kick a field goal. So it was like, I was like, yes, overtime. Give me some Washington production. It was like 20-17, 2 minutes to go. And it's like, oh, no, there was a penalty. So it was just a really weird game. Going so far, can they maintain? I think they're one of the most surprising 7-1 teams. They're 7-1. Is that correct? 8-1, whatever they are. But with Jefferson, I think they can maintain. It'd be great if they had a really, really solid number 2. Thielen came through more than I thought he would last week. I think he had just over 60 yards. I would have put him in the 45 range. And KJ Osborne's doing whatever. And I tell you one thing, though. They can maintain because of the trade they made. TJ Hawkinson, my gosh, what do you have? 10 targets last week, 9 targets, and I think he caught them all. So TJ Hawkinson is going to be very good for Kirk Cousins. The game last week was very weird. Their offense will be fine. I think you're in good position having both of them, Jeffrey. You could drop Everett for Kmet. That's the thing. Like, Kmet was my dude beginning of the season. Remember, I was all over it because this version of the Bears, I didn't see 178 yards rushing, but 50 to 70 a week out of Fields I was predicting. And I thought that he would be able to throw the ball more for the first 5 or 6 weeks. They just weren't letting him throw. So Kmet was doing nothing, but Kmet was my guy. I talked about it. I said, listen, I'm punting tight end. I'm drafting Cole Kmet in like round 12. And he did nothing. And now the past couple of weeks, I think Everett's probably in a better position, but I'm fine with that because it's your backup tight end. You're going to start Dulcich. Listen, if you feel like it seems like you want to just get rid of Everett, don't base it off of last week, Chad, if that is the case. Do you want to get rid of Everett, or do you want to pick up a wide receiver? Because at first you wanted to pick up Allen. I'm not in the Allen business. If you like Allen, go with your gut. I want nothing to do with him. I've been telling people since at least Saturday, Sunday, to just drop him if you need to make a move. If I owned him, he'd been gone, so I could pick up a defense or a quarterback this week with Lamar and the Patriots on bye. Hunt, Foreman, CH, Jamal Williams, currently Eno on your bench for RB. You said you're going to drop Eno for Jaylen Warren. Yeah, you need CEH with this staple because every single guy is a timeshare, every single one. And even when you pick up Warren, every single one's a timeshare. So you just need to hold CEH. I would not drop CEH. Dropping Crochet to get White or Warren. Would you drop Tony, get the other, hold and see what he does in KC? You and I talked about this. We talked about this on the air. Tony, I would have traded as soon as I picked him up. And I know you tried. Anybody out there, I would have done it. His value is back down low. Not as low as it was on the bench or on the IR or whatever for the Giants, but it's down low. He's going to have a pop up game, and it could happen. He could have one. I don't know if it's this week. We'll see how we feel Saturday night when we do the big show. We do the game breakdowns. He's a hold if it's dynasty. At this point, with his value back down to right around where it should be, if not even still a little too high, and you're in a dynasty league and you own Tony, you're just holding him at this point. Because if he would have had a big game, which I never in a million years thought he was going to, but if he would have, I would have been like, tonight, this on the show, I would have been like, get rid of Tony. Still, I would have been saying that. He's fifth on the depth chart at best. Next year, he'll be the number one. He'll be the number one in Kansas City next year. But I think you could drop Crochet for one of those guys, and I think I would just hold Tony because you're dropping Crochet. So you might as well. Eagles going undefeated. I don't know. They've had kind of an easy match, easy schedule. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I don't know. I would like to see it. I'm not against it, but they probably won't, but they might. I mean, the Patriots did it, and Panthers got close. And they lost, right, to the Saints, I think it was. Last game of the year, a few years ago. The year they went to the Super Bowl. So maybe. Who gets more targets, Dulcich or Schultz? I'm going Dulcich versus the Titans. They're so dumb. Denver is so dumb. And we all know this at this point. They're so dumb. The only way you're going to beat the Titans is if you throw the ball. And Andy Reid knew that. And that's why he threw 70 times. And they still barely won. It's the only way. As bad as Russell Wilson has been, you're not going to beat them with Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, and who they get? They just traded for somebody. I can't think of who it was. Chase Edmonds. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. So I think Dulcich is going to have more targets because they're going to have to do that. And I think that, the Packers are I think they're just destroyed. And I think Dallas is going to be able to do whatever they want with them. Absolutely. They probably won't even need to throw much. Tony Pollard could probably run all over them. So I just don't think that they'll need to throw to Schultz much. So I would say Dulcich will get more targets. He's the number three target on their team, if not the number two lately over Sutton. So I like Otten. Been talking about him for weeks. Talked about him before everybody knew who he was. I mean, I got a feeling Tampa Bay, their season is turned around now, and I don't like it. I'm not a Brady hater, but I don't like it. I like when there's somebody new winning. That's why I don't mind the Seahawks winning, and I don't like the Seahawks at all. Can't stand Pete Carroll. The Seahawks and the Packers have some bad blood between them. Seahawks are like right there with the Giants. I know you're a Giants fan, but like the Giants are like a team I just dislike. Seahawks, but the Bucks for whatever reason. But I got a feeling they're going to turn it around, and Otten's been involved. The only problem with Otten is they have other weapons, and I think they're going to get Rachaad White more involved, and I think that Fournette's going to get it going. I really think that. I'm telling you, I felt it. I was watching it, and as soon as Kupp slid, I said, "Well, that was stupid. They're not going to get a first down. They're going to lose this game." As soon as the Bucks started driving, I said, "The Bucks are going to win this game, and their entire season is going to be turned around. They're going to go on a winning streak." So we'll see if that's true. We'll see if that happens this week. But that's the feeling I had when I was watching it live. So Otten is included in that. So my thoughts on him is it's a good tight end 2 for your team. If there's nobody better, because maybe you whiffed on someone or somebody you had got hurt, he's fine. He's fine, but he's a tight end 2 for me. Would you rather play Pierce and Giants defense planting against each other? What are they planting against each other? What are they plotting? Oh, they're playing. Gotcha, Rob. They're playing. Would you rather play Pierce and the Giants defense playing against each other, or Najee in New Orleans? I would rather play Pierce and the Giants. I'd rather play Pierce and the Giants because I'm going to get production out of Pierce. I'm not sure if I'm going to get production out of Najee because I think Warren is going to take over. Um, not 100%, but closer to 50-50. And I think the Pittsburgh offense is going to do pretty well this week because of the Pittsburgh defense, Rob. I talked about him. You and I were texting, and I talked about him on the show tonight. TJ Watt coming back is going to be huge. They're at home. New Orleans on a short week, traveling. It's not a huge distance, and it's not a super short week, but you play against the Ravens, you get your butt whooped. Now you got to go to Pittsburgh and TJ Watt coming back at full strength. I think it's going to lead to some short fields. I think the Pittsburgh offense is going to look pretty good. So I'm not loving the Saints defense and Giants defense going against Houston. Listen, Pierce is going to do what he does. But is Davis Mills? I mean, we don't even know if Cook's going to play. We don't know if Collins is going to be back. So I'm going Pierce and the Giants, Rob. Who's a better New York team this year, Jets or Giants? I'm going to say the Jets. I'm going to say the Jets, and here's why. They got more wide receivers, better ones. The running back obviously goes to the Giants, but I think the Jets have the better defense. Quarterback, it's close. It's close because Wilson's been looking good the past couple of weeks. And he's got wheels, man. He just hasn't taken them out of the barn yet. Not like Danny Dimes. But I think the Jets defense is the kicker. The Giants defense has been good, but they're not Sauce Gardner good. And I think that's where the Jets get the slight tilt. I know it's not what you want to hear, but I think so. Playing FTB12, but you agree. Thank you, Capitan. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's debatable as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Daniel Jones has had some games where he's looked better. Daniel Jones has had some games where he's looked absolutely terrible. I give the nod to Daniel Jones, but Zach Wilson the past couple weeks has looked really good. And that's all I'm saying. I give the nod to Daniel Jones, but Wilson has looked good the past 2 weeks. And it could be because he has better weapons. Daniel Jones has nothing. Even Mr. Wandale failed to show up 2 weeks ago. And without his tight end, so it's tough. But I give the nod to the Jets. Doesn't matter. Either way. Jets are the better team, I think. That could change. They're both very close. Still looking to trade Dulcich if you want him. I don't want him. I don't need him. I'm okay. I got Mr. Pitts. We're sucking it up 1 week at a time, but we're trucking. We're trucking. I got nothing to trade for Dulcich. That's the problem. Everybody on my team has been hurt. I've lost 3 games this year where my quarterback has got hurt in game and gotten 0 points out of them. 3. I lost Javante. I mean, the team's hurting. I've had rough weeks where I've gotten guys hurt and just knocked out of the games. But I'm trucking, man. I think I'm right there, right on, knocking on the door in the ABT League. And that's all you need to be. Right now, you need to be, I'd say you got to be 3-6 at least, and you're still alive. 3-6, and you're alive. Anything worse, probably call it quits. But you don't call it quits. You never quit. Thursday game. We got a rematch from 2 weeks ago. Panthers and the Falcons. Talked about a few guys tonight. I think the quarterback situation is a problem. You obviously, there's no reason to play any of the quarterbacks, even if Walker's the starter for the Panthers. There's just no reason at all because he could get pulled. It could be Baker. It could be Darnold at this point. But I do think that DJ Moore is back in play going against the Falcons. I know he had a down week last week, but that's because the Bengals took it to him like we said they would. And Terrace Marshall is trending up. I think Chuba's going to be back. So I actually think that kind of helps Foreman to some degree. Um, I think it's going to elevate the whole team. I know that Foreman had this one huge week when Chuba went down, and then last week struggled a little bit, but that was the whole Cincinnati thing. But I think Chuba coming back is going to help him. I think you play Terrace Marshall if you need one. I think you play DJ Moore. I think if you need an absolute pinch, I think Chuba and Foreman, RB2 flex, are good to go. This is going to be a good Thursday night one. It should be scoring. Remember this game from 2 weeks ago. Rob called it his game of the week, maybe even said game of the year. But it is. It's a good matchup. So the Falcons, Patterson's back. Get him in your lineup if you didn't do it last week. We recommend him to at least 2 or 3 people that asked us, should I play Patterson this week? And say, yeah, you might as well. Listen, he's healthy. And you had to know it's not like it was he got hurt 2 weeks ago, didn't play last week. He might not be still good to go. No, this was you're on IR, and then we open up a 21-day window, and then we wait, and then you come back when you're fully healthy. So he was fully healthy, and he didn't even see a lot of snaps. He didn't even have too many carries, but he produced every single time he touched the ball. I think they've started to throw the ball a little more. Last week wasn't as much as the week before, but the week before they were playing the Panthers. So I think Pitts is a good play. I think Drake London, if you need him. I mean, if it's not the big names, you could probably stay away. I don't think there's a reason with 4 teams on bye to be going after Zacchaeus. So I'm going to say this game, maybe not as great, Rob, if you're still watching, as 2 weeks ago was your favorite game of the year or the week. But I think it's going to be a pretty good Thursday night game, and I'm excited to see. I would wish it was my boy Baker. They're going with Walker. We'll see what happens. The quarterback situation is going to be big going down the stretch, but I think Terrace Marshall is a guy to go after and scoop because he's trending up. We loved him in the preseason, talked about him a ton. We liked him last year. He never got burned as a rookie. He was injured. And he was injured a little bit in the beginning. And as soon as they traded Robbie Anderson, he jumped right into that number 2 spot. He's been producing every single week. So if he's still sitting on waivers, he's somebody you need to go out and grab. And I think that trend continues in this one. He almost had 2 touchdowns last week. So last one, we'll see. Not close. Giants QB way better. Still thinks he's way better. Still looking to trade Dulcich. J-Rob, it's quarterback for a tight end. Don't think I could do it. How about last week Mixon had? Yeah, it was good, but it hurt everybody else on Cincy. But listen, this has been Mixon's season. This has been, he hasn't been doing much because those times when they get close have been Burrow running in or they've been throwing it from the 2 or the 1. This time they just said, we'll just keep giving it to Mixon. He busted a couple as well, and well-deserved. And that huge game catapulted Mixon, I believe, into the top 5 for running backs so far on the season. I'm almost positive he's in the top 5 for fantasy purposes. So, yeah, great week. Thumbs up to me. Thumbs up to you, wherever it is. And listen, answers by guests, answers with guests. Week 10, halftime adjustments. Like I said, watch the very beginning. Might give you some information in case you want to partake in something. So that's all I'm going to say. And big show Saturday night because we got the Germany game Sunday morning at 9:30. So Saturday night, We'll figure out a time. I'll make out a post. We'll do all the game breakdowns live. We'll do all your questions live. This will be the last big show of the year. Everything after this will be recorded game breakdowns, Sunday morning questions, except for a couple weeks. I just realized Christmas weekend. Um, the games are on Saturday. Christmas is on a Sunday, but there's 3 games on a Sunday. So we're probably gonna have to do something on Friday. So Rob and I will discuss that and figure out how we're gonna do that. But we'll see you all for the big show. Last couple questions. I don't think they rush him back. I think the team's doing just fine without him. They'll wait until he's completely healthy. So you got at least 2 weeks minimum, 3 possibly. You'd love to guess me on a Thursday game one of these weeks, man. I can't force it. I can't force it. But Terrace Marshall, he's getting a little bit too owned to be a guesstimator, anyways. But I can't force it, Rob, and you know that. Whatever I feel, whatever comes to me, I can't just make it be on a Thursday. If it winds up being on a Thursday, it comes on a Thursday. You get what you get and you don't get upset. Listen to me. About to get hammered by another hurricane. I like the first part of that sentence. The second part of that sentence threw me off. I was like, yeah. Oh. Direct hitting this time. That's not good, man. Stay safe. Yeah, Dotson. Let's see. He might be back this week. That would be good for Washington. He might be back this week. We'll see. They've been holding him out. We'll see. Sounds good, brother. Yes, it does. So thank you to everybody that's watching. Thank you to everybody who's commented and liked or loved or laughed or cried or hated. I don't care. Just do something that bumps us up the algorithm. Yeah, it's a selfish plug. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get out to masses. We want to help people. We get nothing out of this other than the sheer joy of watching you win. So check us out Saturday night. We'll be live with the big show. And one last comment before I peace out. I think Philly lose their first game to someone in the division. Wouldn't doubt it. Could be this week against Washington. We'll see. I'll see you all Saturday night. Have a great one. Good luck on Thursday. Peace.